I stood there with my arms crossed, watching the auctioneer slam his gavel down on the podium and yell, "Sold." One last time. Just like that, it was over. The riding mowers, antique tool chests, kids' bikes, generators, even Becky's 8 boxes of wedding decor all gone. Sold. Out from under the very people who thought my barn was their personal dumping ground. The HOA board was screaming. Neighbors were crying. One woman actually dropped to her knees over a vintage sewing machine like it was her grandmother's ashes. But me? I turned, walked back into my house, and closed the door. I didn't lock it. I wanted them to knock. I wanted them to come screaming. Because I was ready. And before I tell you how I got to that moment, let me take you back. My name's Clint Morgan. I'm 49, retired mechanical engineer, widower, and third-generation Texan. I own a 160-acre ranch outside the suburb of Ridge Creek, just far enough from the city to breathe, just close enough to still be bothered. I moved back here after my wife passed, thinking the land would give me peace. What I got instead was a war. And her name was Brenda Caldwell. Brenda was the self-appointed queen of Ridge Creek HOA. Blonde hair so stiff it looked bulletproof, lips always pinched like she smelled something bad, and a voice that could scrape paint off a barn. She married into old money and wore her title like a crown. President of the HOA. Defender of order. Worshipper of bylaws. Her crew? A retired cop named Barry who treated parking violations like felonies, a garden-obsessed widow named Janice who knew everyone's business, and a tech guy named Simon who acted like he was running a cybersecurity firm instead of a neighborhood Facebook page. Thing is, when my parents passed, I inherited the ranch. And along with it, a thin strip of land that connected to the HOA's new development. Just enough to get me legally roped into their kingdom. I didn't care at first. Paid the dues, smiled at meetings, kept my head down. But that changed fast. I came back from a 2-week road trip to Colorado, wanted to clear my head. When I pulled up to the barn, I noticed something weird. The door wouldn't open all the way. I pushed harder and nearly toppled over a stack of Christmas inflatables. Inside? Chaos. Baby cribs, kayaks, artificial trees, beach umbrellas, dozens of boxes labeled with names I didn't recognize. It looked like a garage sale threw up in there. I stormed over to Brenda's place, knocked hard. She opened the door with that plastic smile she wore like armor. "Clint, we assumed you wouldn't mind," she cooed. "The town storage facility raised rates again, and, well, your barn wasn't being used. It's temporary. Think of it as your contribution to the community." I stared at her. I don't remember offering one. She blinked like I'd just spoken in Morse code. "Don't be difficult. It's for everyone's benefit." I left before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I called every board member, no answer. I sent emails. Nothing. 2 days later, a newsletter appeared on my porch. Inside, a shiny new announcement: Community Storage Program residents may now rent space in the Morgan barn for a small fee. No mention of my name. No signature. But you know what was there? A note saying proceeds go directly into the HOA fund. They turned my private property into a rental unit. Without asking. And they were making money off it. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who blows his top. I'm the kind who thinks. Plans. I called Gerald, my old college buddy and now lawyer. Showed him the newsletter, photos, timestamps, even my security cam footage of folks dropping stuff off. Gerald looked over it all and gave a slow whistle. "You've got them, Clint. Solid. But you want to do this clean? There's a way." He explained Texas property code leaves stuff on private land without permission for more than 30 days, and after proper notice, it's legally considered abandoned. So that's what I did. I posted notice on the HOA bulletin board, online forums. Heck, I even stapled one to Brenda's magnolia tree. Gave them 21 days to pick up their junk. They ignored it. So I got to work. Cataloged every item, photographed them, boxed and tagged them. Then I called up the loudest, friendliest auctioneer in 3 counties. We scheduled the event for a Sunday. I printed flyers, ran a local Facebook ad, didn't even mention the HOA. Just wrote, "Barn clean out, everything must go." The night before, I sent Brenda and the board a final email. "You have until 6 p.m. to retrieve your items. After that, everything will be considered abandoned and sold. This is your final notice." No response. Sunday came. Cars lined the dirt road. Folks brought trailers, folding chairs, even hot dogs like it was a tailgate. HOA members walked up looking confused, until they spotted their beach chairs with tags on them. That's when the yelling started. "You can't sell my stuff." That's my sewing machine. I paid for that space. Not to me you didn't, I said, arms folded. Then Brenda showed up, phone in hand, already screaming for the sheriff. This is criminal. This is theft. But when Sheriff Whitaker rolled in, he didn't go to her first, it came to me. I handed him a folder, land deed, photos, copies of all notices, even the HOA newsletter showing they were charging rent. He read it all silently, then turned to Brenda. Ma'am, unless you have a court order, there's nothing I can do. Mr. Morgan followed protocol. This is private property. Brenda's face turned purple. This isn't over. Get in line, I muttered. Auction ended. I made just under $4,300. Not life-changing money, but that wasn't the point. It was about respect, about boundaries. But I knew Brenda wouldn't let it go. Next morning, there was duct tape paper on my mailbox. Emergency HOA meeting. Required attendance. I went. Community center was packed. Brenda tried to spin it, called it an unauthorized liquidation. But neighbors had started waking up. A guy named Curtis stood up, said he posted legal notices. Y'all ignored them. Angela, a mom of 3, added, he could have warned us nicer. But yeah, it was his barn. Someone from the back shouted, where'd the money go, Brenda? She stammered. Said it went to administrative costs. Someone laughed. I stood up. I move we audit the HOA's finances. Third party. Full transparency. Motion passed. And then the lawsuit arrived. HOA suing me for $29,400. Claimed I sold community property. I handed it to Gerald, who just laughed. It's time we hit back. Countersuit for trespassing, misuse of property, stress, and back rent. That's when Linda stepped in. Sweet, older neighbor, always wore oversized sunglasses. She brought over a pie and a bombshell. She borrowed Janice's laptop after a wine night and found board files. Emails. Spreadsheets. Hidden ledgers. They weren't just storing things, they were collecting rent for a planned annexation of my land. Phase 2. Turn part of my ranch into a community rec zone. No permits. No approvals. Just secret emails and wishful thinking. Even worse? Brenda had been skimming. Fake rental contributors, pocketing the difference. $89,000 routed to a dummy company offshore. Gerald took it to the DA. Next week, news broke. HOA president accused of fraud. Brenda vanished. Fled the country. Interpol picked her up in Mexico 2 months later. But the fight wasn't over. Turns out, beneath my barn, an old oil test site from 1957. My granddad built it. Sealed up, forgotten. But worth something now. Brenda knew. That's why they wanted my land. The barn was a smokescreen. She tried to force me to drill, then sue me using a dormant clause tied to HOA mineral rights from the 60s. It was all a trap. I didn't drill. I filed a preservation notice. Declared the land sacred. Untouchable. The HOA was dissolved. Board disbanded. Linda started a podcast called HOA Nightmares. Todd moved to Vermont. Janice joined a church quilting group. Me? I rebuilt the barn. Painted over the red spray paint someone left behind. And hung a sign that says, private property, you may park your trust here. And I meant it. Now tell me this. Was I wrong to sell it all? Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. And if your HOA ever pulls something shady, then just sit there. Document it. Fight back. Because this land, this life, it's worth defending.